Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to KGET.com.
This is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning, everyone. It is 5 a.m. on this finally Friday. I'm Alex Fisher. Maddie Jansen has the day off. We begin this morning with breaking news of a large police presence in central Bakersfield. Here's what the scene looked like about 30 minutes ago on Truxton Avenue and V Street. Police haven't released any details about exactly what happened, but video shows several officers searching through a white SUV. We're working to get more details from police and we'll bring you the latest as we learn more. Now to an update on an officer-involved shooting in Shafter that sent one man to the hospital. Shafter police officers were called to the area of Walnut Street and Minter Avenue just after 1 o'clock yesterday morning for a report of a car crash. Omar Martinez was asleep when a car careened into his neighbor's yard. He says he heard sirens just minutes later.
Oh, then 5 minutes after that, we actually heard some shotguns, right? So we're like, whoa, that was shotguns. We went dug into our bedroom with our kids because we didn't know what was going on at that point. So it kind of escalated from just maybe a car wreck to shotguns. I mean, it was kind of traumatizing, if you will. I mean, you know, we sleep in this bedroom, so it's like, man, it was like, you know, a matter of 10, 15 feet where it could have been completely different.
The suspect's car crashed into another car in a parking lot. That car slammed into the garage while the suspect's car stopped in the yard. Police say there was a confrontation and then a shooting, but they would not say anything else about what happened, except that no officers were hurt. The suspect was taken to the hospital. This morning, his condition is still unknown. By our count, this is the 9th officer-involved shooting this year. 17 News is your local election headquarters, and one of the candidates hoping to replace Governor Gavin Newsom this month campaigned in Bakersfield yesterday. 17's Chris Burton has more.
Our next governor, Larry Elder.
When I heard what Larry Elder was talking about, I thought, you know what, this is somebody we need.
Elder, a longtime conservative talk radio host, is the frontrunner to replace Governor Gavin Newsom should he be recalled in the upcoming special election. Elder was joined by Kern County District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer and Carla Pearson, whose son was killed by a drunk driver nearly 20 years ago. The speakers focused on crime, a hot issue since the push to recall Newsom gathered steam months ago.
And I want to address all the victims of crime here and all of those out here. We're going to be victims in the future because of the way this man has ignored the number one responsibility of government is protect people and property.
The latest data from the Public Policy Institute of California shows public support for recalling Governor Newsom may be falling as we approach Election Day. But political consultant Kathy Abernathy isn't concerned.
Well, the money on this campaign is all in Gavin Newsom's pocket. On the Yes campaign, it's volunteer efforts. In this county, over 60% of the ballots turned in so far appear to be in support of the recall.
The gap between Elder and the field of replacement candidates has stayed wide. For him, it's mostly a matter of pushing voters to recall Newsom. For 17 News, I'm Chris Burton.
And as mentioned, a new poll shows Governor Newsom will likely defeat the recall. The poll released late Wednesday night shows 58% of likely voters say they'll vote no on the recall, with 39% saying they're a yes. Likely voters in the poll also said COVID-19 is their number one concern, with their response to Newsom's handling of the pandemic mirroring the numbers on how they would vote in the recall. 58% approving, 39% disapproving. On a campaign stop in San Francisco yesterday, Governor Newsom warned if any of the Republican candidates win, COVID-19 could run rampant in California. Front-running candidates, including Larry Elder, have indicated they would get rid of statewide pandemic-related mandates.
One of the lowest positivity rates in America. It's below 5%. We have among the highest vaccination rates in America. Compare and contrast that to the states that he seems to celebrate. Places like Texas, and Florida, and Mississippi, and Alabama.
Governor Newsom mentioned yesterday President Joe Biden will come out to California very soon, but did not provide details. This latest poll shows approval ratings for Biden in California have dropped 12% since the beginning of the year. House Minority Leader and Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy joined us yesterday for a congressional update. He talked about the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan.
We are less safe today than we were 20 years ago, all based upon what President Biden has done. There were conditions in that agreement, and he did not hold Taliban accountable for those conditions.
The congressman also talked about the recently signed abortion ban in Texas and the January 6th commission investigating the Capitol attack. You can watch the full interview on our website, kget.com. 5:07 is our time now, and opioid addiction is destroying lives in our community, with most opioids sold on the street laced with fentanyl, a synthetic and highly lethal drug. So how do you help a loved one who may be impacted? Bakersfield Recovery Services hosted a forum last night to answer that question and more. Several panelists were on hand, including our own Robert Price, who has done extensive reporting on fentanyl and the heartbreak suffered by so many families.
We always tell people, err on the side of caution. If you're not sure if something's going on with maybe your child or your significant other or family member, give us a call. We can talk about it. Ultimately, especially with adults, it comes down to them if they want the help or not. But at the same time, family can be a really valuable resource in terms of getting them that help, being that catalyst to help. Sometimes family sees the problem before the person who's struggling with the addiction themselves does.
If you missed the forum, you can watch it on our website, kget.com. And just a reminder, you can watch Robert Price's in-depth look on the rising use of fentanyl here in Kern County and the lives the deadly drug has taken. Just head to our website, kget.com/fentanyl, for Robert's 5-part series, Fentanyl, the Counterfeit Killer. Recapping our top stories on this Friday morning, Republican recall candidate and radio talk show host Larry Elder campaigned in Bakersfield yesterday. The event was largely focused on crime, a hot issue since the push to recall Newsom gathered steam months ago. A new poll shows Governor Newsom will likely defeat the recall. The poll released late Wednesday night shows 58% of likely voters say they'll vote no on the recall, with 39% saying they're a yes. Likely voters in the poll also said COVID-19 is their #1 concern. Bakersfield Recovery Services hosted a forum last night to address the fentanyl crisis in our community. Several panelists were on hand, including our own Robert Price, who has done extensive reporting on fentanyl and the heartbreak suffered by so many families. If you missed the forum, you can watch it on our website, kget.com. Now to the menacing Calder fire. It has grown to more than 210,000 acres and continues to threaten South Lake Tahoe, a very popular tourist resort. NBC's Steve Patterson has the latest.
Firefighters trying to beat back an onslaught of flames in a desperate attempt to save homes in the popular resort community of Lake Tahoe. Some ski resorts even using snowblowers to fight the fire.
How close is the fire now to South Lake Tahoe?
It's really close. It's right behind a certain road that outskirts the community.
And now some firefighters are also battling COVID. A strike team of at least 16 firefighters now sidelined, sparking fears the virus will infect even more critical frontline crews.
How much more can Californians take of this?
If you don't believe in science, gotta believe your own eyes. Come here and experience the smash-mouth realities of climate change taking shape in real time.
More than 53,000 people have been forced to evacuate, hundreds heading to safety in neighboring Nevada.
I'm very concerned. I don't want to lose my home and everything I have.
The Caldor fire, now so big, it looks like a threatening storm from space.
And this is what crews are dealing with, these forests of flame. All it takes is one pocket of embers and a strong wind gust, and you can have these all over South Lake Tahoe. That's what firefighters are trying to prevent, but they're up against it. What's your overriding fear? What's the intel you're getting about the erratic nature of this fire and what it could do now to South Lake Tahoe?
Mother Nature is the most powerful force on the planet. Mother Nature will determine the fate and future of South Lake Tahoe.
Steve Patterson reporting. An update now on the French fire burning west of Lake Isabella. Containment of this wildfire is holding at 43% this morning, and it is spreading at a much slower pace than just a couple of weeks ago. The French fire is believed to have been human-caused and has scorched some 26,000 acres of timber and brushland in the Kern River Valley. As multiple wildfires continue across California, additional volunteers are also needed to help provide comfort and care when it's needed most. Red Cross Central California has issued an urgent call for volunteers as they continue to respond to the impacts of multiple wildfires throughout our state. If you would like to volunteer, visit redcross.org/volunteer today. In your 17 Crime Watch this morning, the Sheriff's Office is investigating after a man was shot in East Bakersfield. It happened just before 9:30 last night on Bernard Street near Robinson Street. That's where police found a man who had been shot. Deputies say he was taken to a hospital, but his condition is not known. Anyone with information can call the Sheriff's Office at 327-7111. All right, should say that is 861-3110. That's the Sheriff's Office number. September is National Suicide Prevention and Recovery Month, and to shine a light on these very important issues, the Kern County Administrative Building will light up in purple and teal. Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services says after an especially difficult year, it is important we get help for those struggling with substance abuse or suicidal thoughts.
We saw more of our youth dying by suicide. These are terrible things. They impact everybody. They impact entire communities. So asking for help, asking somebody if they need help is the first step. It is so important because there are resources out there to help everybody.
Here are the numbers to call if you need help. Kern County's 24-hour crisis line is 1-800-991-5272, and the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. Back now with the latest on the coronavirus in Kern County as we continue to get daily reports of hundreds of new cases and multiple deaths. Public Health announced 5 new deaths and more than 600 new cases yesterday. By our count, at least 109 people have died since vaccines became available to everyone 12 and older. Public Health lists diabetes and hypertension as the leading comorbidities or pre-existing conditions, but that database has not been updated in more than 4 months. 147 people have died in Kern County from COVID-19 during that previous update. Turning now to podcast giant Joe Rogan, who shared he tested positive for COVID-19. The 54-year-old, who has been dismissive about the COVID vaccine, says he contracted the virus while on the road for a comedy tour. Ann Thompson has more.
He's been one of the loudest COVID vaccine skeptics.
It's a completely new kind of vaccine. The idea that people shouldn't be skeptical or nervous about that is kind of hilarious.
Now this morning, Joe Rogan, the mega popular podcaster and UFC commentator, says he tested positive for COVID.
I got fevers and sweats, and I knew what was going on.
Telling fans on Instagram he got back from taking his show on the road Saturday night. Reportedly, he was in Florida, where COVID cases are setting records. It's unclear whether the 54-year-old has been vaccinated. Rogan also sharing with his over 13 million followers that he's taking the drug ivermectin, meant to treat parasites and worms in horses and other animals.
We immediately threw the kitchen sink at it. All kinds of meds, monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin.
Despite being unproven as a COVID treatment and dangerous for humans in high doses, ivermectin has received a recent boost from online misinformation, prompting warnings from the FDA and other health officials. The FDA tweeting last month, "You are not a horse, you are not a cow. Serious, y'all, stop it." With millions of listeners and a $100 million licensing deal with Spotify, Rogan has influence, setting off a firestorm earlier this year, suggesting healthy younger people didn't need the vaccine.
If you're a healthy person and you're exercising all the time and you're young and you're eating well, I don't think you need to worry about this.
Savannah asked Dr. Anthony Fauci for his take on Rogan's comments.
Well, that's incorrect, Savannah.
Young, healthy people should get vaccinated.
Absolutely.
Vaccine proponent Prince Harry, who also has an exclusive deal with Spotify, took Rogan to task.
Stay out of it. If you have a platform, with a platform comes responsibility.
Rogan quickly responded to the backlash.
I'm not an anti-vax person. I'm not a doctor. I'm a f***ing moron. And I'm a cage fighting commentator. I'm not a respected source of information, even for me.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.